everything looks viral. And the more research I've been doing since I talked to you even, everything viral, 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 viral. And even the Lyme disease, I'm pointing again. When I start getting very serious.
You're becoming the professor.
I get very pointy when I start getting all animated. It's me trying to get through to doctors. And let me tell you, listen to me. And the fire is crackling. I love that. Crackle, crackle as it gets started. What was I just getting ready to say? The celiac thing, yeah, and there's so many other types, too, of the same type of thing, like there's Crohn's, and there's a whole bunch of gut labels that you can...
with Crohn's. It's
yeah.
awful,
So there's a whole bunch of labels, again, that you can throw on these problems, just like...
Well, she did say that the leaky gut was a pretty common thing with...
These days.
With celiac.
These days, those go hand in hand, absolutely.
So I thought, well, if nobody's mentioned that, they obviously had. I didn't know.
Well, it kept coming up in my research, which is why I want to have these tests and want to do these things, and why I wanted to get the leaky gut test. Because that's a test that you can actually do something about if you get that positive result.
Yeah, because there's things you don't eat, and that helps.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's some remedies, some natural remedies you can take to try to heal your intestinal wall, which I've started. Cha-ching, cha-ching. It was so boring for a while just eating plant foods, which I know sounds bad, but
I know,
it's very boring just eating the food and not making it fun at all. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
well, if you're feeling like you're getting too sick,
it makes you not want to eat.
Yeah.
So I started doing stuff like trying to figure out how to make like banana bread. I figured would be one of the easier ones.
She has recipes.
And I can't do eggs either. So it's like, for example, you can substitute wheat flour with coconut flour. It's not really a flour, it's just ground up coconut.
She uses a lot of almond stuff.
Almond flour, ground up almonds is a really good one. Almond flour for making bread really is close if you use eggs. But I can't use eggs.
Are you allergic to the eggs too?
Yes. I've become allergic to the eggs. I didn't used to be. And a food sensitivity. And I think that it's because of the leaky gut.
Well,
and so...
I think when things are going wrong, everything goes wrong.
Yeah, so a food sensitivity versus an allergy. A food sensitivity, you can get your health back enough to where eventually, over years, you might not have that food sensitivity anymore. And so my thinking is, if I fix my leaky gut, I won't have those food sensitivities anymore, or maybe not as many.
Yeah.
I really want to have salsa again.
You can't eat tomatoes, can you?
I can't eat tomatoes anymore.
I remembered that.
Or onions, or garlic, or
any flavoring of it.
Any flavoring of any kind. So all my flavoring comes from herbs, which are great in the sense that it's a natural medicine, and I'm using it that way. And they're beautiful, and I love it, and it's, I love the whole process of having them in my kitchen and my garden and all that. But, and salts, and although salt isn't good for high blood pressure, I, on the other hand, with my POTS, have been told to increase salt. Like, I have a salt intake I'm required to have every day. You also get more than 70 other, I can't remember if it's 72 or 75 other natural minerals, and I can't think of the word. But anyway, you get other nutrients. Thank you. You're wonderful.
That's the English
minerals, nutrients in natural sea salt that's unprocessed, that hasn't been stripped out of it, and iodine with the natural sea salts, but they're not allowed to put it on the packaging.
Iodine be in it because it's incredibly absence of.
And of course, this is just the beginning of my information, but I really feel like that they're not there yet with their Lyme information scientifically, and just like with chronic fatigue, just like fibromyalgia, just like these other things where they don't know enough information yet. All these people with Lyme were originally diagnosed with either fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, or all of them were told they were crazy, go see a psychiatrist.
At the end, and when he had the, what do you get when you're in college?
Mono.
Yeah.
With Epstein-Barr virus, which is what I have.
Which they said he had.
Or had.
In London, when he first came home, they said that's what he had. And he'd already had it when he was a freshman in college. And this was...
He'd had it before and then he got it again?
Yeah, and he couldn't believe that it...
That doesn't make any sense.
No, and he couldn't believe that. And he said, the Italians say I should go home and see my mom. I said, I'm glad you're coming home. He'd had a horrible sore throat. He'd been very sick. And he couldn't get better.
Yeah.
And the antibiotics weren't working.
Yeah.
They were giving him he was living in London at the time. So that's when he came home and stayed.
I didn't know that part of it.
Stayed in my house for 4 years.
I didn't know that part of it.
Fighting this stuff and acting like you do. He kept fighting it.
Yeah. Because sometimes people have all these symptoms, but they test negative on the Lyme. So it's like 50% of people have all the same stuff that people who test positive on the Lyme test. And so they still have Lyme, but they don't.
So you had the Lyme test?
I had the non-Lyme Lyme test.
Okay.
And so now that she recommends getting the Lyme test to make sure. So I could totally have the Lyme bacteria in my system and have Lyme. But I think that it's a virus that we're dealing with. Every single symptom is viral. All the specialists have said to me, there's nothing we can do for you. There's nothing we can work on here. It's a post-virus thing that you're dealing with, and we don't know what it is.
And our virus is the thing that don't work with the antibiotics, right?
And yes. And so bacteria can be affected by antibiotics.
Yeah.
And the tick bacteria can be affected by antibiotics. But a virus that gets triggered by the Lyme tick bacteria, that virus isn't going to be affected by antibiotics. No. Now, the other thing about Lyme is that most people, especially if it's been in their system for a long time, aren't going to be healed by antibiotics. Yeah. They're going to be given a better quality of life through a bunch of natural methods that are going to help their whole system balance out, which could, in my opinion, be helping the virus balance out.
You were in a situation where I am, where sometimes when that sometimes just taking care of yourself differently than you might have in another world. For me, there would be different ways to do it, but for me, it's not doing everything I want to do, because when I do that, I'm
already there.
And it falls apart. And so when I can do that and be calm, it doesn't trigger the episodes.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the doctor looking at me and saying, if you think you have any control over this, you don't. And I thought, well, that was a nasty thing to tell me. Because he was really a good guy. He didn't have me take all the drugs that they put everybody else on, but my friends all ended up with Parkinson's symptoms. So they went from having this to also having Parkinson's. Because those are all experimental drugs.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
I don't think, I wouldn't blame their doctors. It was something everybody was doing. Everybody did this. And my doctor said my episodes were far enough apart. And then I said, all I have to be then is calm. And he said, anything that works, you should do.
Yeah.
I just believe that. And I believe getting all head up about it, seeing why I quit going to doctors and trying very hard not to change my doctor. It's because everybody else looks at it and starts all over from the very beginning, and it gets very tense, which I'm sure you know. You just can't fix it. So why go through all that misery? And so that's why I stopped. And it sounds crazy, but it's what does best for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes you know what does best for you. And I'm so glad that you're getting into Stanford because they have more ways of testing. And their experimental thing will work. Just be careful of what they suggest you swallow. Kind of do know it is worth trying things that aren't, you know, and if you're at a stage where nothing is working, it's worth experimenting. But I'm just saying is with the experimenting, if you get noticeably worse, hold your hand up quick. That's all. He was so sick. He was working for Lehman Brothers and, you know, was based in New York but living in London. I mean, it was he had a very exciting career, and all of a sudden he could...
Doing great.
The sore throat and everything was so bad and he couldn't get better that they sent him home. It was horrible for him. So then, think about this if you were 29. And
I think about that because there are kids as young as 12, as young as 9 getting it, and they have no life. I mean, at least I didn't get it until my mid-40s after I'd already had all these milestones of my life.
It's going to get more. It's just going to be a little slower paced, okay? He just lived in his bedroom. It was horrible.
Yeah.
He was researching all the time, and he did get Frank stock set up in the stock market so we can still eat because we don't have a pension. You know? So he did a lot of what helped us at the same time. He was stuck in the bedroom in our condominium, which was much smaller than the one we're in now.
Yeah, yeah.
Which we bought in case we were all in it together.
Where was I?
Went out adventuring.
What was I doing? When was this?
Valentine is 51. So subtract. He was 20.
I can't do math anymore.
You were 33.
I was 33. Oh, 33. So I was happily divorced at this point. Yeah, so I was happily divorced and I was working my butt off and traveling. Okay. Yeah.
He didn't have a great bedside manner. If you think you have any control over this, I'll never forget him saying that.